You think you're untouchable, statue boy. The words slithered out of the former heavyweight champ's mouth, sharp as a jab and twice as arrogant. Tyrone the Titan Briggs, a name that once echoed through arenas like thunder, stood just feet away from the tomb of the unknown soldier. He wasn't here for reflection. He was here for clicks, wearing gold-rimmed sunglasses, a gleaming leather jacket lined with tiger fur, and diamond chains that swung with every cocky step. Briggs looked less like a visitor and more like a walking billboard, his entourage camera crew, hype man, and a booming speaker playing his walkout song circled him like satellites around a dying star. The black rope cordoning off the sacred ground might as well have been invisible. He lifted one leg, exaggerated a cartoonish step, and crossed the line. The crowd gasped. Not a ripple, a rupture. Sir, you are to step back immediately. The voice didn't shout. It didn't stammer. It just cut. It belonged to the tomb sentinel. Uniform perfect. Rifle pristine. Eyes forward. UNMOVING. Briggs chuckled, turning to the camera crew like he was on a late-night comedy show. You hear that? They programmed this one real good. He mimicked a robot voice. Step back. Step back. He took another step forward, mocking, deliberate. I said, step back. The soldier repeated, not louder, just harder. Like steel, white gloves clenched but didn't lift. The rifle never wavered. The posture stayed locked. In an eternal act of devotion, Tyrone's hype man egged him on from behind the camera. Yo T, show MYU the champ. The boxer grinned, and then his right hand flashed forward like lightning. Knuckles met jaw, clean, direct, loud, enough that even the birds nearby stopped chirping. The silence that followed was unlike anything Briggs had ever felt. It wasn't just quiet, it was shame folding the air in half. The guard didn't fall, didn't flinch, didn't blink. Blood formed at the edge of his lip, but he held. You have assaulted a United States tomb guard on hallowed ground, the sentinel said. You are now under military detention. From behind the marble structure, two figures emerged. They didn't yell, they didn't run, they moved precise, cold, fast. One wore the rank of captain, the other a master sergeant. They didn't ask Tyrone anything, they simply flanked him. No handcuffs, no force, and turned him away from the tomb like a father turning a reckless son toward the truth. Tyrone looked stunned, not scared, not angry, just hollow. The crowd stared. One woman clutched her chest. A man covered his child's eyes. Even tourists who didn't witness the punch had turned, drawn in by the stillness. The camera stopped rolling. No one dared to break the silence. They walked Briggs across the grass, past the black rope, past the stairs, to a stone bench on the edge of the ceremony space. There, under the weight of silence, they sat him down. His crew tried to follow. The sergeant raised a single gloved hand. They stopped. No words were exchanged. Only consequence. Minutes passed. Then, a rustle from the crowd. An older man, mid-70s, stepped forward, dressed in a modest blazer. On his chest gleamed the Medal of Honor. His posture wasn't rigid, but it held centuries of weight. He walked slowly, each step the story of a life already paid in full. He stood in front of Briggs, who now sat like a lion who realized the cage was real. You hit the wrong man, the old veteran said. His voice wasn't angry. It was mournful, like a father disappointed not by failure, but by ignorance. You think that guard was there to protect the tomb? No. That guard is the tomb. Tyrone looked up, confused, brows furrowed in shallow understanding. The man continued. That guard, that boy, memorized every step of a 21-second walk. Every turn, every click, rain, heat, snow. For someone we'll never know, for someone who never made it back. He leaned closer. You punched honor in the face, son, and it didn't flinch, but I did. Every man who's worn this, he tapped the medal on his chest, did. Briggs swallowed. His cocky aura had drained into sweat along his neck. The man didn't stop. That's not discipline in your fists, that's rage. Discipline is doing the right thing when no one's watching. That guard, he stood there more hours than you've spent training, without moving, without breaking. While the world keeps walking past, for the first time in his life, Tyrone didn't know what to say. He tried to open his mouth. Nothing came out. His crew behind the ropes had gone quiet. Even the speaker had been turned off. His fans online were already refreshing timelines for something viral, and instead they'd find this a guard, a punch, a pause in the noise of the world, and a lesson only silence could teach. Tyrone Briggs sat on the cold stone bench like a schoolboy sent to the principal's office. But this wasn't school, and this wasn't discipline he could dodge with, charm or lawyers. The Medal of Honor veteran who had spoken now stood silently beside him, arms folded, watching the tomb of the unknown soldier, like a father watches over a grave. Minutes passed, then the captain who had detained Briggs turned and spoke. "Do you know what you just did?" Tyrone looked up. His voice, when it finally came, was soft, almost unfamiliar. "I hit a guy in a uniform." "No," the captain said, stepping forward. "You struck a member of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the old Guard, while on active ceremonial duty. That's not just a guy in a uniform, that's a walking monument." The master sergeant beside him added, "These men train 18 months before they're ever allowed to take one public step, and when they do, they represent every American we've buried without a name, every soldier whose mother never got to say goodbye." Tyrone swallowed again. Harder this time, his knuckles were red, not from pain, but from the realization that the blood on his hand wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. He'd bruised something sacred. A camera crew, still behind the rope, lifted their lenses slowly, hoping for another angle, another soundbite. But the captain turned to them and gave a single, sharp hand signal. They lowered the cameras. "Sir," the sentinel said again, voice unwavering despite the blood dried along his jaw, "you have violated sacred military space." And still, he hadn't broken his position. Still, he hadn't moved from his post, the same spot he'd been standing before. Tyrone crossed the line. The captain looked at Briggs again. "You've got 2 options. You walk away like the man you came in pretending, to be full of fame, money, and no respect, or," he paused. The silence stretched again. "You stay, you listen, you learn why no one mocks this ground, ever." Tyrone's lips parted slightly. "I'll stay," he said. It came out low. "But real dot," the captain nodded. Once, then stepped aside, and that's when the history lesson began. They brought him inside a nearby facility, not a prison, not an office, just a room with plaques, photographs, and medals under glass. A quiet place where sound seemed unwelcome. The old veteran followed behind. "This isn't punishment," the captain explained. "This is education." A plaque on the wall showed names. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Tyrone leaned closer. "What's this?" the master sergeant answered. "Every man who's ever held the post of tomb sentinel, less than 700 since 1937, fewer than astronauts, fewer than Navy SEALs, and every one of them passed tests most people would fail just in training. Tests." The captain walked toward another frame on the wall, a photo of a young man standing motionless in a thunderstorm. Rifle in hand, his uniform drenched but flawless. "He once stood here for 4 hours. In lightning, while we were under tornado warning, didn't move, not once. People begged him to step away." Why didn't he? The veteran behind Tyrone finally spoke. "Because that tomb never had a break, so neither did he." Tyrone turned to the display case beside him. Inside, a pair of worn leather shoes sat behind glass, polished, weathered, laced tight. "Are these real?" The master sergeant nodded. That pair belonged to Specialist Morales, 3rd-generation soldier. His father died in Afghanistan, his grandfather in Vietnam. Morales trained nearly 2 years for this role. Never once smiled on duty, never once broke. Tyrone's throat tightened. "Was that the guy I hit?" The sergeant nodded. "And he's still standing out there," the captain added. "Same post, same posture. Because that's what honor looks like." The silence hung again, not because no one knew what to say, but because there was nothing left to say. Finally, Tyrone spoke. "I didn't know." The veteran behind him shook his head slowly. "Knowing is a choice, son, same as respect." Then he pulled something from his blazer pocket. A photograph, old, folded in half, yellowing at the edges. He handed it to Tyrone. It showed a young man barely out of high school in uniform, smiling with dirt on his face and a rifle slung over his shoulder. "That's my brother," the old man said. "He never came back from Korea. That's..." Who that tomb is for, not the name, the idea, the sacrifice. Tyrone stared at the photo longer than anyone expected. He didn't speak again. He just looked, and for the first time since the camera stopped rolling, he felt it, the weight. The silence, the meaning, not just of the tomb, but of what it means to stand for something when no one claps. The guard was still there, his jaw slightly bruised, his stance unbroken, his eyes steady. Tyrone walked up to the black rope and stopped. He didn't cross this time. He waited. The captain stood beside him. "You can speak now." Tyrone nodded once. "I'd like to apologize." "Then do it." And with no camera, no Instagram Live, no mic, just the setting sun behind him and the sound of boots on concrete from the changing of the guard, the boxer known as the Titan stepped forward. He removed his sunglasses, dropped them in his pocket, folded his hands together. He bowed his head. "I disrespected this place, and I disrespected you. I was loud when I should have been silent, arrogant when I should have been grateful. I'm sorry." The tomb guard didn't move, didn't nod, didn't break, but someone behind him, another guard in training, gave the slightest, smallest nod. Almost imperceptible, but enough. Tyrone stepped back, behind the rope, where he should have been from the beginning. The crowd, still silent, watched. And then someone clapped. Then another. And another. Not a standing ovation, just acknowledgement that maybe something had changed. Not in the ceremony, but in him. The story spread across every platform imaginable. News networks ran headlines like wildfire. Boxer punches tomb guard, learns respect instead of revenge. Clips from shocked tourists hit millions of views overnight. Some called for Tyrone Briggs to be banned from public events. Others saw something else. A man humbled in real time. Tyrone disappeared from the spotlight. No public statements, press tours. Not even a lawyer's rebuttal, just silence. But behind the scenes, something had changed. In a small boxing gym on the south side of Atlanta, far from the arenas and flashing lights, Tyrone showed up. Alone, no bodyguards, no entourage, no gold chains or tiger fur jackets, just a hoodie, gloves, and a duffel bag. The owner of the gym, Coach Reggie, had known Tyrone since he was 15. He didn't say much. When the boxer walked through the door, just nodded toward the ring. Tyrone stepped in. No cameras, no hype. Just a man staring at a heavy bag, like it was the past he couldn't outrun. Not hard, measured. Then stopped, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, discipline, not rage. That's when he knew. Fighting wasn't the problem. 3 months later, a press release went out, but not from a promoter or pay-per-view company. It came from a foundation founded by Tyrone Briggs. Mission: to teach at-risk youth the values of discipline, respect, and honor through boxing, mentorship, and visits to sacred military grounds like Arlington. Instead of promoting fights, he was funding field trips. Instead of Instagram beefs, he was giving speeches to 8th graders in Detroit and Dallas and D.C. The first rule of the 21 Steps program. Before you throw a punch, learn why some people stand without moving. Back at Arlington, the tomb of the unknown soldier remained unchanged. That was the point. Same marble, same silence, same perfect 21-second walk. One afternoon, nearly a year after the incident, a black car pulled into the cemetery lot. No press followed. No drone hovered above. Tyrone stepped out wearing a black suit, neatly pressed, his shoes polished, not to shine, but to respect. No cameras this time, just him. He walked to the same rope he once crossed with a smirk, but now he stopped well behind it, hands folded, head bowed. The ceremony began. The sentinel stepped out, crisp, measured, silent, dot. With every step, Tyrone tracked the timing. 1, 2, 3, pivot, click, again and again, and again, perfect, every time. Then something no one expected happened. As the sentinel passed Tyrone's section, he paused for just a breath, a half-second hitch in rhythm. He didn't look over, didn't speak, didn't even blink. He just paused, like the earth itself, gave room for redemption, then continued. Perfect timing, perfect form. And Tyrone didn't move a muscle, because now he understood. Some things you honor not with words, but with stillness. Months later, Tyrone stood. On stage at a local school, rows of kids in folding chairs, half listening, some tapping phones, others whispering. He let them talk. Then he held up a photo, the one the old Medal of Honor veteran had handed him. The young soldier from Korea, this man, Tyrone, said, never came home, and the guy who guards his tomb doesn't smile, doesn't speak, doesn't move, just to honor him. He stepped forward, lowering his voice. I used to think power came from punches, but now I know. Real power comes from stillness, from control, from respecting something bigger than you. The room went silent. No one whispered anymore. It showed clips from Tyrone's journey, the Arlington moment, his apology, the creation of 21 steps, and the transformation that followed. The video ended with Tyrone walking alongside a group of teenage boys in military uniforms during a tour of the tomb. One kid turned to him and asked, "Why'd you hit that guard?" Tyrone stopped. "Because I thought I was strong," he said, "but I didn't know what strength was yet." Before we end this story, tell us in the comments, what does discipline mean to you? If this story moved you, drop your thoughts below. And remember, on Hidden Sparks, we don't just chase the spotlight, we chase what's right. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,